What's good, everybody? This is Bored Figures, and you're looking at the SHFiguarts Buzz Lightyear. This was the figure that unexpectedly started it all for me, and I would like to share that story with you today. I do have to let you know this will be less of a toy review and more of a conversation, or a story. A toy story. You see what I did there? You know. That being said, my opinions, experiences, and insights will be sprinkled throughout this video. If you are still interested in a more in-depth review of the figure that meticulously goes through every accessory or every point of articulation, I will link some that I have enjoyed from other creators in the description down below. Hold up! You don't gotta go down there just yet, just spend a little bit of time with me. I believe this will still be a good companion piece to any other video you might watch. The more videos on a figure, the merrier, in my book. So, how did this figure start it all for me? Well, I hadn't collected anything for a few years at the point that I got into this addiction. This hobby, I guess some would call it. I had collected some Pokemon cards when I was younger. I'd collected some Legos. I certainly had some action figures, but by the time I was graduating high school and moving out, I was more so into video games or video production equipment or anything of those likes, so I wasn't collecting things as much, and I didn't really foresee myself collecting anything. I certainly would never have guessed that collecting action figures was anywhere in my cards. So much to the point where after I had moved to a different state, I ended up telling my mom she could get rid of all of my toys that I had as a kid. I was like, I don't care, whatever you want to do with them, which to this day is one of my biggest regrets that I have. There are some that she kept, which is nice to be able to go back to, but there are others that are no longer there. One of which being a Buzz Lightyear toy that I did have as a kid, obviously based off of the original Toy Story movies. And I think the kid in me is excited to see such a beautiful figure bringing to life a character that meant so much to me as a kid. And I do think that Toy Story in general, being such a ironic story that has shaped much of the way I think about things when it comes to collecting or possessing any sort of toy or just something fun, you know, whatever hobbies. You know, there's a sentimental nature to it that I always carry with me, and I think it does date back to those Toy Story movies being something that resonated with me so strongly as a child. All that being said, it wasn't on my bingo card that I would be collecting action figures into my late 20s, yet here I am. And it started with a random chance video recommended to me by the YouTube gods. The algorithm, listening to my every waking thought, decided that I needed a new addiction. And it showed me a beautiful thumbnail of a figure of this character that, you know, I don't think we can talk more about it without talking about the movie. Some people love it, some people hate it. I find myself somewhere in the middle where I find it somewhat entertaining, it's enjoyable, it's not groundbreaking. And I think that's, for some people, the problem when you're dealing with a character that they cherish so much. You want them to make a movie that, even still, the character designers and the team behind bringing that original Buzz Lightyear toy design to life in a more modern and also lifelike rendition, where he's not meant to represent a toy, he's meant to represent an actual person in this animated style. I think they killed it. They absolutely did. Even so much so that right out of the movie, my girl and I, we went to Walmart, and I said I had to find like a Buzz Lightyear figure, whatever Buzz Lightyear figures I could find, and they had the little Mattel, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 inch figures that are, you know, pretty crappy in hindsight, but at the time I didn't know any better. I was just like, that's cool. And you know, it was probably a month later or so whenever the video that popped up came onto my feed, and it was a video by Unparalleled Universe, Wade, I think his name is. High quality video, goes through every single bit of information about these figures you could possibly ask for, and by the time that video was over, I already had this thing in my cart. It wasn't something that I was iffy about. It was something I was right away like, this feels like something my childhood self would be so over the moon about having, and I have to have it. I overpaid a little bit at the time because I wasn't too savvy on the market. I wasn't too savvy about releases in Japan and then later domestic releases. I thought that was just how much it was going to be, and I thought if anything the price was only going to go up. Obviously the price has gone down a little bit. They've had some sales on this. I probably could have got this figure a lot cheaper if I had waited, but obviously I didn't, and I think it is because I didn't that I have developed such a strong interest in these little toys. And this, ironically, though being the figure that started it all for me, was not the first figure I received, because I got the one, I got to get him a friend, and what if they fight? I got to get a third one, and so on and so forth. I looked around. At that time, I was very SHFiguarts biased. I was convinced, I was telling every person I knew, bro, let me tell you about these Japanese action figures. They are so crazy. Like, there is nothing you've ever seen like it. They don't know how to do this shit in America. Japan is going crazy. Just spewing nonsense at people because I thought I knew something. Just barely dipping my toes into the hobby, and SHFiguarts had really made an impression on me. So I looked on Mercari for some other figures of some other characters that might have meant a lot to me, and I found SHFiguarts Saiyan Raised on Earth Goku and SHFiguarts Super Mario, and I honestly got great deals on both of those. I got the Goku for like 20 bucks and the Mario for like 35, which at the time and even now, or now and even then, was a pretty good deal, and I just didn't really realize it. So I sort of made up the overpaying that I did for this figure with those deals, and both of those figures, being used figures owned by people in the US, arrived to me much sooner than this one did. So it was technically the third figure that I possessed, but it was the figure that lit the fire under me and put that spark in my heart. So here it is. The figure is beautiful. I would have the box here for those of you who are in-box collectors or just appreciate yourself a good box, but I couldn't find it. I know that I have it. I pretty much keep all my boxes. I just didn't feel like spending forever trying to find it. So to anybody who was hung up on seeing the box, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be here today. To anybody who inbox collects, I don't get it. I don't get why you don't want to play with your toys, but I do understand appreciating a good box, and I do think that for the most part SHFiguarts has some of the better boxes in the game. He also comes with plenty of accessories. I mean, you come with several gesture pose hands that you could possibly ask for to get him into just about any pose that you would want. He also comes with an alternate head portrait without his little head condom, head sock, whatever you want to call it. But that's not Buzz Lightyear to me. It's cool to see him with his little tuft of hair, and it's nice to have a little smiling expression. But this is my definitive Buzz look, and it's gonna stay that way, at least on my shelf. It also comes with his laser that attaches to his arm, holsters for a gun and a sword that can attach respectively to his leg and to his back. And he also comes with his jetpack, obviously, his iconic winged jetpack, which I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit more later. All of those accessories I will hopefully have had pictures up on screen, but I don't feel like pulling them all out right now. That takes away the fun of just casually sitting down and talking about and playing with a figure. So that's the gist of that. We can now jump into a little bit of articulation. I'm not going to go through every single joint, as I kind of hinted at in the beginning, but I am going to go through a series of posing, and any sort of notes or limitations or things that I find important to note about the articulation will hopefully be gone over. I've had experiences in the past where a reviewer will talk about the type of joint that's in there, like for example, oh, he has double jointed elbows and this other figure has single jointed. Oh, that makes the other figure worse. And I have created bias that have kept me from enjoying or diving into other figures that I, ended up enjoying in the long run when I finally allowed myself to do so. So instead of going through every single piece of articulation and potentially creating that bias in your mind, I would just like to pose it, show you what it can do, and talk about some of the shortcomings I have personally experienced. So first and foremost, this guy can get it, okay? He can bend all the way down. There is nothing more you could possibly hope for out of an abdomen crunch. Same thing going back. He is maximizing it, even with his bulky of armor as he has. That gives you an incredible amount of range for action, but also the tilt, something that I wish other figures that go for the ab crunch route would get. that diaphragm cut just gives you so much more personality and dynamic that you miss out on with anything else. Let's get him into a nice little walking pose to start with. Got to get him into a bit of a swaggered pose. Hopefully D Amazing would be proud of this. He is obviously the king of the walk, the strut, if you will. There we go. And if we want to add a little bit more action to that, we can bend it down. Oh, and the problems begin to present themselves. This is something I have a lot happen with this figure. This kind of sucks. It comes apart at the bicep joint, as you can see. It plugs in right there. This is just sort of a cover that goes over top of it. And every time you go to use the bicep swivel on both of my arms, this tends to fall off. Which is great if you want to recreate that moment from Toy Story when Buzz finds out he's a toy. Sorry to break it to you, Buzz. But it's not great for when you're trying to pose. So that is one of the shortcomings. This being a figure I love so much because of sentimental value, I can definitely overlook that. But it is a QC issue that does need to be addressed and should be noted. You might also notice I have some damage on mine. My dog got a hold of this pretty early in my possession of it, something I was very heartbroken about, this being a figure that I spent way too much on at the time, and it was pretty devastating. But now it's a mark that signifies this is my figure, nobody else's, and you know, I'm sure I'll have this figure long beyond my dog passing, and that'll just be something to remember him by. Anyways, getting a little off track. Let's go ahead and get him down into a running pose, you know, just to add a little bit more action to it. The problems present themselves, and then we get sidetracked and distracted for a little bit. So we'll get him into a deep little action. There we go. And that's another great thing about the neck articulation setup they have here, with the ball joint at the base of the neck and at the top of the neck below the head. You can really get some insane range in him. Like, I mean, he can literally scrub the fishbowl, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is no angle he can't get in. Really awesome. Let's go ahead and get him in a bit of an unorthodox pose. You know, some people might be a little perturbed by this. That's not what Buzz does. He's not Superman, but we're going to get him into a little superhero floating pose. Maybe you got a hold of some compound V. Let him hover there, looking down at you. Hey, you know what? And we can actually justify this by slapping this on. Look at that. Look, you can't be mad about it now. Let's mess around a little bit more with that. We can lift his head up. Get a little kickage in his legs. Reach that arm forward. Have him look toward it. Trying to mess with his bicep swivel without it coming undone. There we go. Now he's floating towards you in space, ready to give you that to infinity and beyond. Yeah. Alright. And we'll go ahead and round things off. Remove that jetpack by getting him into a nice little neutral standing pose. And this, unironically and with zero exaggeration, is my favorite part about this figure. Not even this figure, but action figures in general, man, is the neutral stance. You know, we talk about our action figures as needing to be in action poses, something we're constantly playing with, and that's always fun. But at the end of the day, when we're going to put it back on the shelf, 90% of the time it's just going to be standing there. And figuring out how to get a lot of character and expression in just a pose of them standing there is something that I put a lot of time and thought into, because I think it matters, and I also have a lot of fun in it. You know, we can change up just this neutral standing pose here by arching his back a little bit, puffing his chest out, bringing his chin down. Suddenly he's looking a little bit more confident. You know, he is a military man after all. Maybe he's, you know, he's trying to elicit that, you know, confidence, maybe a bit of arrogance. You never know. And then we can squat him down a little bit, lift his head up, bring his arms forwards. And that's one thing that's really great about this figure is you do get a pretty good, what's it called? Oh gosh, shoulder apparatus. I'm blanking. Butterfly joints is what a lot of people call them. It's you know, more of a representation of the shoulder apparatus that's formed by our collarbone and our shoulder blades, which allows our arms to move separate from our thoracic cage, aka our ribs. Let's keep it simple here. Don't gotta throw out fancy words. And you know, you can get a lot of forward and back, good rotation, even with such a big bulky suit. And the best part is that they can kind of fly forward, so you can really get him bringing those shoulders forward like he's trying to flex at you, like he's been at the gym. Oh gosh, is that Chris Bumstead in the suit? Good God. You know, we can get him hunched down, looking up a little bit, bring those arms out, maybe bend these legs down. Now he's ready for action. Here, let's lift this up. If we had his gun on his holster. So I don't know. I just think there's just so much fun in the character you can put into a pose. We can make him a little bit more shy and timid. We can bring his toes in, make him look down, maybe touch his fingers together. Some people would hate this. What are you doing to my boy? There's just so much character you can put into just the way the character's standing there. You know, the way I think about it, Superman, for example, one of the most active characters you could possibly imagine. It's not tea time! He would be flying around the globe, saving lives, but 90% of the time he's just going to be standing around with the people he loves. And, you know, body language is a thing. You know, the way that we stand communicates a lot about our personality, the way we're feeling, if we're feeling nervous or confident or sick, or all sorts of things can be communicated just through the body language of the way that we stand. So, anyways, we've got him in a nice neutral pose here, pretty relaxed. I like this pose. Something that I think is fun to note, you know, I'm sure I'll talk about this plenty in videos I make in the future. When you have a figure who's putting more weight on one leg than the other, as you can see, this leg is straight up and down. That means that he's shifted his weight. His weight is more so on there. It's going to make the hips kind of canter this way. So this hip is lower, this hip is higher, and it's really helpful to make the shoulders go the opposite. Anybody who has taken any sort of art classes before might know this as a kind of gesture drawing, or you know, what would you call it? Live model drawing. A lot of that, you'll try and get that balance of the limbs. Something like when we're going for the walking pose and one leg's forward and the other arm is forward. It's just the natural way that our body sort of balances itself out, and it's even seen in the way that we stand. This was very common in Roman and Greek marble statues. Michelangelo did this in his David statue. This counterbalance in hips. And obviously we don't always stand that way. Sometimes we balance it out and we're ready. You know, but when we're relaxed and we're just standing there, we know we might be standing for a second talking to people or posing for something. It's just a natural thing that we tend to do. Fun little tidbit of information for you, for anybody who gives a shit. We'll put him back here, and I think at this point we get to do something that I think is also one of the most fun things about the hobby. Not just posing them to stand there, but also posing them alongside a series of other characters that you might really enjoy. So we'll adjust this camera a little bit, since I do imagine we'll have some characters that might be a little taller than him, so we can tilt that up and let's bring some other figures in. I think we're going to start with another character that was notably voiced by Chris Evans. We got Captain America. Obviously, this not being a live action version, this is more based on the comics. This is the 20th anniversary Toy Biz commemoration by Hasbro. And let's go ahead and bring in Captain America's mold. We've got the Mafex Invincible Iron Man to go alongside. I don't have the actual Mafex head on there. Obviously, this is the also the 20th anniversary Toy Biz commemoration Hasbro head sculpt. I just really enjoy it. I know some people think it gives you the creeper in the van vibes, But I think it is a great interpretation of like an 80s Iron Man, which I've grown very partial to lately. Even as somebody who grew up with the modern Marvel movies, that was my childhood and teenage years. The classic versions have just really grown on me because we wouldn't have those if it weren't for them. And these head sculpts both were sculpted by Phil Harding. I want to throw that out there because I really wish that figure companies shouted out their sculptors and their artists a lot more. I think that he did a great job on both of these head sculpts. I will also link his Instagram in the comment section down below or in the description down below. Phil Harding, I believe his name is Harding Studios, I want to say. He's been sculpting for years for Toy Biz and Hasbro now, and I think he makes some of the best head sculpts that Hasbro puts out. So next we'll bring in another Mafex superhero. We've got the Mafex Classic Spider-Man, one of my favorite figures. I do have a custom head sculpt that I 3D printed, painted myself, sculpted, 3D printed, and painted myself. Very proud, as you can see. One day I'm sure I will make a video going more in depth on that and sharing a little bit more. And to round off our superheroes, I got to throw in a little bit of a curveball here, but easily one of the most iconic modern superheroes. We've got the Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi All Might, big boy that he is. God, I love my hero, and if you think it's overrated, well, I don't like you. Alright, let's go ahead and get these guys out of here. Next, we're going to throw in some other figures that are kind of armored boys, give a similar vibe to Buzz here. We've got the 1000 Toys Master Chief. Really great depiction of a classic Master Chief, obviously from Infinite. These figures feel very similar, like the quality of plastic, the way the articulation kind of functions, very similar feeling figures. Then we'll bring in a Black Series Mandalorian, not the Mandalorian, but honestly a Mandalorian that I almost prefer. And then we got the Black Series Captain Rex. Not a very great figure out of the box, but with a little TLC in time, I managed to turn it into my ideal depiction of Captain Rex. And another little wild card here. We've got the Hasbro Fortnite Victory Royale series. Rest in peace. Seems to have been banned to the Shadow Realm. This is Lexa. And we'll go ahead and take those out of there. Next, we'll just throw in a handful of random wildcard figures. We're going to start with Mezco's Hellboy from the movie, but with a custom, more comic-inspired head sculpt that I painted myself. I'm very proud of the work that I do. Then we've got the Mezco Popeye. One of the best figures I think is in my collection. They really just killed it. Let's have him turn a little bit toward the camera. Here we go. Then we'll bring in another figure from a lost line that was gone too soon. We've got the Fortnite Victory Royale series Midas Rex. Just such great figures. Why'd they have to do that? And the Black Series Darth Malgus. I've been wanting this figure for so long, and the Black Series team did not disappoint. This is easily one of the best, if not the best figure in their line. Don't at me. If you don't agree, I don't care. I love it. Let's go ahead and get those out of there. Next, we'll do a couple big boys. I'm doing a lot of comparisons, aren't I? This is probably going to be a trend. I just love putting figures next to each other, and I hope you guys are with it. This is the Cosmic Legion's Kragnar, and damn, I tried to make room for him, and it still wasn't enough. Kragnar. Such a beautiful figure. So well sculpted. If you grew up with Ben 10 as I did, this is like a modern sort of reinterpretation of Forearms, much like this Buzz Lightyear being a modern reinterpretation. It's just so cool. And of course, we've got to throw in everybody's favorite sadistic alien. We've got Majin Buu from SHFiguarts. I'm so glad they re-released this figure because those resale prices were outrageous. And we can get those out of there. And just because I mentioned them, I have to put in the 3 figures that started my collection. We've got the Saiyan Raised on Earth Goku from SHFiguarts, if I can get him looking somewhat presentable. And the SHFiguarts Super Mario. Yeah, go ahead and present Buzz there for us. And for fun, here's Minecraft Steve. And we can get those out of there. One last comparison. I'm going to put him alongside my original character, Louse. This is a work in progress character. I try to get time to work on him when I can, but he is slowly coming together. Alright everybody, this has been the SHFiguarts Buzz Lightyear, the figure that started my strange addiction. What do you think of the figure? What's a story in collecting that you have, or what was the figure that started things for you? Let me know in the comment section below. This has been a little bit on how I think of my figures and what I prefer and how I play, but I'd like to hear what you prefer and why. Let me know if there's been another figure that I've shown today that you'd like to see me talk about my experiences with, or if there's an upcoming figure that you've seen that maybe you'd like me to take a look at in the future, if I can afford to do so. For now, that's all I've got. Check out my Instagram, I post pics like these, and until the next time I grab a random figure from my shelf and talk about it. Bye y'all!